Today on Inside Utah Politics, the coronavirus pandemic. We're catching up with Governor Gary Herbert for the very latest on the state response and where it goes from here as we approach the fall season. And state lawmakers recently addressing the upcoming general election. What modifications will be made to increase access to the polls for Utah voters amid the pandemic?
Time now for Inside Utah Politics.
Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Glenn Mills. It is time to go inside Utah politics. We begin today with Governor Gary Herbert. I sat down with him at the Capitol earlier in the week to discuss the latest with the coronavirus pandemic. Governor, welcome to the show. Always glad to have you on.
Thank you. It's great to be with you, Glenn.
Let's start off with the state of the pandemic now. We've started to see case numbers go down. The 7-day rolling average is below where you wanted to see it this time of year. However, we're seeing about a 9% rate of daily positive tests, which we'd like to see lower. As it sits now, where do we stand with the pandemic, the way you see it?
I think we're moving in the right direction. We're going down the right road. I think we're doing some good things that are helping us get on top of the pandemic and make our future hopeful and optimistic. That being said, you know, there are concerns. We don't have as many people being tested. It's a little uncertain why that is, but it is very probably because people don't feel sick. Right now, when you get a test, it's because you feel sick. You want to see, do I have the COVID-19? About 9% do, but that means that 91% don't, but they go on and get tested. So even though we have fewer people being tested, the percentage seems to stay about the same. I'm very interested in the hospitalization rates, the death rates. Those you can't fudge, you can't modify. That's just what reality is. And so I see those numbers being good for us as far as low mortality rate, lower hospitalization utilization, particularly ICU beds. I see our unemployment rate dropping down to 4.5%, the lowest in the nation. We've always tried to have the right balance, help people with their health care and their health needs, their lives, as we say, and their livelihoods. And at least on that metric, we've done it as well, if not better, than any state in America.
Let's stay on that point real quick, because you bring up a good point I want to get into a little bit more. Would you say the impact of the virus alone or the impact of the response on the economy, on mental health, on education, which one has been more detrimental?
I don't know the one's more than the other. They both have application to how we feel. I'm sick, I feel bad. And we, again, even though people don't get sick unto death, we have a lot of people that are very sick. And that's a concern, and that certainly causes other people to say, I don't want to be around you and catch it. You know, I don't want the spread of the coronavirus to take place. On the other side, those people are getting very anxious and concerned about their employment. We had a poll here not too long ago that showed that more people were concerned about unemployment and the economy than they were about the spread of the coronavirus. So both are equal. That's why we've tried to take a balanced approach. It's not one versus the other. They should be looked at in conjunction together.
We have seen schools start to reopen up, welcome students back, and we've already seen some that have had to readjust their plans due to outbreaks. What's your assessment as you take a look at education, and are our students getting the education they need to be getting right now?
Well, that's the goal. That's certainly the plan. And it's certainly been a situation where we're learning as we go. There's no playbook for this. This has not ever happened in any of our lifetimes. And so this is unique. We have a lot of misinformation that's out there floating around. We've had fits and starts as far as what people have told us, from the administration to people in healthcare. It's been kind of an evolving situation, and we've done the best we can with the information we had on hand. Same thing is true of schools. We want to open them up. Kids want to go back to school. Parents want them to go back. Teachers want them to come back. How do we do that in a safe environment so we don't have people get infected, or that we spread it through these vectors of schooling to others, teachers, principals, those who are maybe more vulnerable than some of our students because of their age. So it's been a challenge, and we're learning. We had standards put in place by the health departments. We have 41 unique plans for the 41 different school districts. And yes, there may be some modifications and adjustments as we learn better as we go through this process.
Some parents are a little frustrated that when you mention those 41 different plans, they say, my child's education is looking different because I live on a different side of the road, so to speak. Does that concern you?
Well, sure. There's a lot of frustration for everybody. I wish we didn't have the COVID-19. And we have to deal with what we've been dealt as far as the cards we've got to play. And yeah, I would hope people are involved with their local elected school boards, talking to their principals and their teachers to make the best of a difficult situation. We're trying to give parents choices. If you don't like what's happening in the schools, you can stay home and do it online or do homeschooling. Again, we're learning as we go. We're trying to make it the best we can. I'm sure we can't please everybody. We're trying to please as many as we can to find that optimal point of education so that our kids don't lose a year of education as we go through this pandemic. Soon we're going to have a vaccine. I think that'll help us get back to a more normal situation, but we've got to go through this difficult time now, working together as collaboratively as we can.
You hit on something just a minute ago that I've heard you say before, and that is there's no playbook for this. We didn't come into this knowing, being able to look back to see how have we handled this in the past. Hopefully we will never see this again. But if we were to see this again, another 100 years down the road, what would your advice be to the governor at that time? What did you do that you maybe regret that you would do different?
Well, understand that even from those the experts, the medical experts, the scientists, even they are struggling to find out what is in fact the right conclusion and what's the right policy and for us to follow. Even they are uncertain. That being said, we have done some good things in advance. Our economy is not as deteriorated as much as any other state in America because we had a rainy day fund. We had good principles in place. We had a very diverse economy as opposed to having all of our economic eggs in one basket. That's allowed us, at least economically, to survive better. We have the lowest cost health care in America and one of the highest quality rates of any place in America. So things we've done in advance for the last decade and more have helped us weather this storm that's come up with what we've done to prepare for it. Certainly if we had more PPEs, if we had that go back and say, gosh, who knew we needed to have them? We could have stockpiled more of those. In hindsight, we can see we needed more there. Better communication, better understanding would have been nice. But again, you have to do with what you've been given and react to what we really didn't know at the time.
One of the more controversial elements from this has been the no-bid contracts. Is there anything looking back you would do different that way?
There's a reason why we have emergency declarations, because we have to act in a hurry. When this came out, again, it caught everybody a little bit by surprise and not knowing exactly what to do, but we knew we had to get PPEs as soon as we could, and there was a shortage in the world of this. We had some of our local people change their lines of manufacturing to help provide us with these products. We had to act in a hurry. The no-bid contract is part of the emergency declaration, so we could get something. Others, you can imagine, we had to wait for 2 months to go through a legislative process and go through a traditional RFP. We would have been on the outside looking in. We wouldn't have had anything. Again, in hindsight, it'd be nice if we had some more stockpiled on hand, so we didn't have to act in quite such a hurry. But that's the nature of an emergency.
Let's take the app, for example. It was supposed to be a tracing app to help in contact tracing. Didn't pan out to be that way. Why are we still paying for that?
Well, again, it's not over with yet. Again, we have now a new RFP where we have time to see what we can do to augment that. There's the great potential with this app for us to be able to have tracking and tracing of people, to help isolate those who've got it, to let people know and be aware if they're going into an area that may be infected, that you can get on your app and your technology on your iPhone. So the opportunity to use technology for us to help assess and evaluate what your health is, to tell you where you can go and where you should maybe be careful about going and avoiding, and what we can do to get treatment, is really kind of the advancement of technology, which we hope will prove to be something very worthwhile in the future.
Have about 30 seconds left, Governor. Fall's just around the corner. People are going to start getting sick again, during that sick season. Are you worried about a surge, and what's being done to plan for that now?
Well, we're always worried about something that will be untoward, and hurt us. We hope for the best, but we're going to be prepared for the worst. We're going back indoors now more as we get into fall and the winter time. That's a more dangerous situation when we share the same air shed as opposed to being outside. So we hope people will, in fact, continue to take precautions, wear a mask, social distancing, hygiene, etc. And we think that by doing this, for example, our traditional flu season may not be as bad. So we may have a benefit on the other side because we're protecting ourselves about COVID-19, which will help us have a minimal year with traditional flu.
All right, Governor, a lot of uncertainty.
Oh,
We're
yeah.
all kind of in this together, and what a way to go out in your final year. You never saw that coming.
Nobody did.
Yeah.
It's been a very unforgettable 2020,
Yep.
which we're all going to hope to forget sometime in the
Yeah,
future. But
no doubt
we're
about
doing
that.
good. Every day's an adventure. The state of Utah, we're in a good place. I'm very optimistic about the future, and so we should all be hopeful. Let's all do our part.
Appreciate your time. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Still to come, verification rules that were suspended for the SNAP program are returning. Why some say it will lead to Americans going hungry. Plus, an aid bill for the U.S. Postal Service has cleared the House. It's now off to the Senate. Why it faces an uphill battle after the break. Welcome back. The USDA says it will return to its pre-pandemic SNAP rule that requires applicants already approved for food assistance to prove their income is low enough to keep those benefits. The department says it will give states some wiggle room, but food assistance experts fear still millions of needy families could fall through the cracks. Washington correspondent Raquel Martin has the details.
It's quite alarming, especially for households with children.
Food assistance experts like Dottie Rosenbaum say the U.S. Department of Agriculture should not reinstate pre-pandemic rules for SNAP, the federal food stamp program.
While some things have gotten a little bit better since the beginning of the pandemic, we're nowhere near back to normal.
Starting this month, millions of families already approved for food assistance will again have to prove their income is low enough to keep benefits.
There's a real risk that they will lose food assistance when they're put through this process of having to reprove their eligibility.
The process requires extra paperwork and at times interviews. USDA waived the step back in March to help states process a wave of new SNAP applicants faster.
We have folks that have never before needed food help and need it now.
Michigan Democratic Senator Debbie Stabenow says it's too soon to return to business as usual.
We need to have additional support through SNAP. This is a once-in-a-lifetime pandemic. We need to be stepping up.
But U.S. Agriculture Secretary Sonny Perdue is standing by his decision to return to normal protocol.
That's still the plans.
Perdue's office says states have had ample time to prepare for newer high volumes, but says areas with exceptionally high unemployment can still apply for waivers to speed up applications.
As long as communities and areas of labor force are above that unemployment cap.
States can apply for waivers monthly. In Washington, Raquel Martin.
With the House passing a bill to provide $25 billion to the Postal Service, the bill now heads to the Senate. Washington correspondent Basil John reports on what senators think the next step should be to guarantee a fair election in November.
The House Postal Service funding bill is ready for action in the Senate. Democrats say passing the bill should be a no-brainer.
The House acted responsibly by not only legislating but appropriating $25 billion, and you had a number of Republicans that agreed with them.
Pennsylvania Senator Bob Casey says Senate Republicans should schedule a vote on the House bill, which also prohibits any service reductions at the post office through the end of the year.
If the Senate Republicans want to make changes to it, that's certainly worthy of debate.
Many Senate Republicans remain critical of Democrats for blowing the problems at the post office out of proportion.
I think some of this is just a political firestorm, quite frankly.
West Virginia Senator Shelley Moore Capito says the post office does not need the money right now.
Remember, we did put forward a $10 billion loan to the post office, which I don't believe they've actually accessed yet.
Capito says she would rather work with her Democrat colleagues towards a COVID relief and stimulus bill that includes postal reform and more.
There's a lot of other things hanging out there that I'd like to see us take care of: small businesses, vaccines, school openings, and all those kinds of things.
Both the House and the Senate return to the Capitol after Labor Day. Reporting in Washington, I'm Basil John.
Coming up, election security is becoming a focal point in the race for the White House. How Utah lawmakers are responding after the break. Time now to dig into some of the big stories of the week with the Inside Utah Politics panel. This week we have State Representatives Steve Handy and Andrew Stoddard. Gentlemen, great to have you with us. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. Thank you.
Let's get into the general election. A lot is being made on the campaign trail nationally, the national narrative of concerns over security and fairness. Representative Stoddard, let's start with you. Do we need to be concerned about a fair and secure election?
You know, I think both parties have concerns with the election. Obviously, we had interference in the prior election, and that's something that our intelligence agencies are warning us about. So I think it's something we need to pay attention for. We need to make sure we're watching out for misinformation, we're not spreading misinformation, and I think that will go a long way in terms of having a fair election.
Representative Handy, let's bring you in. Security and fairness concerns for the upcoming election.
You know, there's a lot of noise going around, as we all know, but I have great confidence that our election in Utah, that I know the most about and that Representative Stoddard knows the most about, is going to be conducted with high integrity. It will be free, it will be fair, it will be with high integrity, and it's going to be just great.
Let's get into this issue with the USPS. Obviously, a lot of areas, including Utah, heavy on mail-in ballots. Are they equipped to do the job appropriately to make sure every vote that is done by mail will be counted? Representative Stoddard.
You know, it's funny to hear everyone talk about this outside of our state because this is really almost all I've ever known in terms of voting, and it's such a great way that we do it, and I don't have any concerns that our state can handle it, that our Lieutenant Governor's office and our county clerks will do a great job with it.
Representative Handy, let's bring you in. The president has voiced grave concern over mail-in balloting, but as the representative points out, we've been doing it here in Utah for a long time.
Yes, we have. I agree with Representative Stoddard. I don't share the president's concerns. I think it's quite disconcerting to be sending those kinds of messages. I was early in my legislative career in 2012 when we dipped our big toe into vote by mail, and it has worked marvelously. I'm a Davis County legislator. I've gone and seen the counting process, socially distanced, and seen the counting process. There's high integrity. It is an amazing process. We ought to have and can have confidence in the upcoming election.
Okay, you guys addressed the upcoming election in the special session. Representative Handy, you specifically had a bill. Talk to us about how the changes are being made to make sure that we do have access to the polls.
Yeah, thank you very much. This was a bill that Senator Wayne Harper and I ran in the special session on the 20th. And what the bill really does is it really affirms, I think because of some of the noise, it reaffirms that it will be vote by mail. Each county must conduct an in-person voting process. We provided for flexibility to have outdoor voting if they would want to do that. Also encourages working with the postal officials to ensure that the ballots are going to be processed quickly. As we looked at that, we have confidence that that will be the case. Also calls for a public information campaign that'll be paid for out of some of the CARES Act money conducted by the Lieutenant Governor's office. Also talks about this issue of ballot harvesting, that you can't have one person pick up a lot of ballots and mail them. There are some exceptions within your own family, of course, but I think it was a really good bill that got some clarity and some direction for the election going forward.
Okay, let's move on to another very interesting topic, and that is safety across the country. Again, a very big talking point on the national narrative. We heard it a lot in the Republican National Convention, that they were trying to make the case that President Trump and the Republican Party is the party and the way that will keep Americans more safe after November 3rd. Representative Stoddard, let's start with you on your thoughts there.
And this is, as a prosecutor, this is an issue that's especially important to me. And I think it's something that the president is blowing out of proportion. Obviously, he's spreading a lot of misinformation in terms of our safety. And I think he's trying to use fear to get extra votes. And I think that's unfortunate because, you know, what we're seeing in terms of rioting and looting is very minimal compared to the amount of peaceful protesting that we're seeing.
Representative Handy, is that a winning message for the Republicans on a national stage? We are the party that will keep you safe.
You know, I think it is pure and it's nothing more than political rhetoric. It really is. It's bloviating. Let's stick to the issues. What is it that you can do that will you know, why should we vote for you? This is all a distraction. we are going to have an excellent election, and people are going to be safe. We've learned a lot about this through the pandemic over these last 6 months. People know how to do it. It shouldn't be a political issue. Everyone wants to be safe going to the ballot box or voting by mail.
Representative Stoddard, let's bring you in as a prosecutor again there. Let's talk more a little bit about that, the Biden-Harris ticket. The president and other big Republicans are trying to say, you go that way, and they're not going to keep you safe, you know, when we're talking about these riots and looting that we're seeing going on across the country. Any truth to that?
No, absolutely not. And I think it's a little bit ironic that that's the America that we're in now and saying this is what you're going to see more of. But I love what Vice President Biden has done in terms of just calling for unity. I think he's been very respectful in terms of calling out the violence on both sides. And I think that's what we need to do. This is an issue that's important to everyone, and I think both sides need to work together to make sure that public safety is maintained and that it's maintained for all people in this country.
All right, an interesting roller coaster we saw play out in Provo with the power struggle kind of going back and forth. City Council enacting a mask mandate, the mayor then vetoing it, they override the mandate, and now we're seeing it go to a voter referendum. Quite a story there. What's your assessment, Representative Handy, on what you're seeing going on down there?
Very, very unfortunate, and again, very divisive. That's not really necessary. Come on, it is a mask, and it's public safety. It's fine. We can do this. We can do hard things. I really feel bad for those folks in Provo. They have to deal with this. Shouldn't have this kind of problems.
Representative Stoddard, one of the ironic things here is by the time a referendum would even get to the voters, this may be a thing of the past.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I agree 100% with what Representative Handy said. This shouldn't be an issue. It's become so divisive and so political, but really it's just, let's do this to be kind. And I think it's unfortunate that the City Council had to even come back and didn't have the backing of their executive down there.
Representative Handy, talk about why this has become political. This really has become kind of a right versus left thing. Why do you think that happened?
I have given that a lot of thought, and I think I think normally, and we as Utahns are pretty responsible, and we're pretty obedient as well. But there is something in our DNA here in Utah that we want to look for government overstepping. And for some people, this is government overreach and government overstepping. For me, it's just common sense. I don't get it. I don't get why it's seen as government overstepping. We can do this. Listen to the health professionals. We're flattening the curve. We can get rid of this thing until we get a vaccine. And so let's just use common sense.
Representative Stoddard, we have seen most districts go back to school. Salt Lake City will do so this week online. But we're already starting to see some schools have to modify the way they're doing things because of outbreaks. Your assessment of that?
Yeah, and I think that's to be expected when you have large groups of people together. This is something that's very concerning to me. I have kids in school. My wife's an educator, so it's something we've been paying close attention to. And I hope that people are complying not just in school with the mask requirement, but outside as well. Some of the behavior I've seen on social media is very concerning in terms of that these kids are good at school, wearing their masks, socially distancing, and then they get out and get together in close quarters and really aren't being smart about the way they're handling themselves. And that makes it so much easier to spread.
Representative Handy, your thoughts on what we've seen from schools as they have rolled out the new year so far?
Hey, very interesting. In Davis County, where I am from, my wife is also an educator in the district office. She told me just the other day she was out at 2 of our high schools. We have 10 high schools in Davis County. She was out at 2 of the high schools. The kids in the high schools wearing masks, social distancing, doing their thing. But as soon as school's out, they're in the parking lots, masks are off, they're in the cars, and I don't know how you control that. You just can't. So what that's going to mean is that there are going to be infections that are going to occur. And so let's not be surprised when you have outbreaks in various schools. And I think our administrators are doing just a terrific job to kind of keep things under control. We need to support them and work with them. We're all looking for common sense solutions.
We're going to have to end it on that note. Great conversation, gentlemen. Appreciate having you with us. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Stay with us. We'll be right back with more Inside Utah Politics right after the break. We leave you now with a look at what's on the radar in the world of politics. The University of Utah hosting the vice presidential debate this year. It's on the schedule for Wednesday, October 7th. Mail-in ballots will start to go out the week of Monday, October 12th, and the general election is Tuesday, November 3rd. Make sure to connect with me on social media. I'd like to know what you think of this show and other issues that are important to you. You can email me at InsideUtahPolitics@abc4.com. You can also follow me on Facebook and Twitter. Just log on and search Glenn Mills ABC4. Thanks so much for making us part of your day today. We hope to see you again next week as we go inside Utah politics.